Hey, how are you? And a good Eagles morning. You got your Mac and Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Sometimes the you-know-what works out. And over the last 24 hours, it has for the Birds 365 show because we were able to land two really good guests. One of which is a local guy, one of which is a national guy, both of which will be jumping aboard with us to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. And the countdown continues. John McMullen, how many days till you get grass time?
It's too close, Jody. I'm starting to panic. It's getting a little too real for me. We are on Thursday. It's a Wednesday. It's grass time, so it's way too close, man. It is way too close.
I know you're looking forward to it to get a fist bump from Coach Sirianni and/or
any other player. He's going to be too busy now. I don't think he can do that.
Oh, you think that's off, huh? He's not going to be doing the glad hand.
You know what? I think there's going to be too many people now. Remember, in the offseason, it was very limited. I think there's going to be too much people. I think he's got to concentrate. I'm not expecting fist bumps, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's, Nick Sirianni
didn't fist bump me. Yeah. See what I can write about him tomorrow.
He's got work to do. I have no problem with it.
All right. Speaking of that work, one of the guests we're going to have on is Howard Eskin, who yesterday came out with a big report, first one to have it, and no one is refuting what Howard is reporting. That Zach Ertz not only is going to be at camp when camp opens for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he has been in the facilities the last couple of weeks working out with other Eagle players. Apparently the animus that was in place between he and the Eagles, they've reached an accord on it or been able to put it behind them, but it seems like all systems go for Zach Ertz to join the Philadelphia Eagles when camp opens and possibly when the season gets underway, which means a lot of 12 personnel for the Birds again this year.
I'm glad you said that, Jody, because this brings up a lot of complications for Nick Sirianni. So I do want to get into that. We'll get into that throughout the show. But, you mentioned Howard's report. The second part is the more important. We know he's going to show up because of the CBA and the $40,000 fines that can't be forgiven. So we've been talking about that. He can't not show up. You got to come up with some plan. Now, Andrew Brand has made some inventive ways. Maybe they have him in the building, not on the practice field. So the more important part of Howard's report was the second part, the fact that he's already been there working out with his teammates. Now, you made that leap, and maybe it's true. Maybe it's true that the animus isn't there anymore. Remember, the coaches, and they have nothing to do with it anyway, but also people like Howie Roseman, they can't have any contact. The players can go in, they could use the facility, they can work out. They can't have any football time, so to speak, with the coaches, the GM, the personnel people. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's fractured. It does mean that perhaps Zach Ertz sees the writing on the wall and sees Howie Roseman's playing chicken, as we've said. He might still be playing that game of chicken. He might want this out there so other teams say, the Eagles aren't just going to wait and release and we can pick up Zach. There might be ulterior motives to this whole situation with Zach Ertz. And from my standpoint, look, it's been pretty clear the Eagles probably Zach definitely wanted to move on from the Eagles. The Eagles could certainly use the salary cap space they could get from moving Zach Ertz along in the short term. They need a cornerback that we constantly talk about. They still have to sign Landon Dickerson as Jody McDonald prepares to get ready and stretches the hamstrings for that victory lap. They still have some work to do on the financial front. So this doesn't mean he's going to be here week one. It does mean he's going to be here on Tuesday. And that complicates matters, as I mentioned, for Nick Sirianni on a number of fronts. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Look, yes, the first day or two, people will be asking about Zach and the plans and that, and then it'll slow down. You'll get into the business of camp. But remember, this guy wants to play 11 personnel. He wants to play. He wants to put more speed on the field, which, by the way, Doug Peterson wanted to do as well, but he couldn't because his two tight ends were better than his receivers. Well, guess what, Jody? If he's there, his 2 tight ends are better than the receivers outside of Devonta Smith. And this guy has bent over backwards, as we've talked about constantly, to talk about competition. So how do you not put Zach Ertz on the field? And he doesn't want to do that. So you're putting a rookie head coach who wants to do something else in a more difficult position. I think the Eagles have done that too much. I don't want to overstate it. It's not that big of a deal because you should put the best players on the field. But that's not how he wants to play. That's not what he wants to do.
Time out, Philadelphia. Which press gathering, which media session were you in that I missed where he said, I don't want to play 12 position, 12.
Well, this is where you either believe the reporter or you don't believe the reporter. I'm not the only one, but I'm one of the guys who reported they told Zach that if he is here and he does come back, he's no longer the number 1 tight end. He was already told Dallas Goedert is going to be the guy. He was also told we're not going to play as much 12. So you're talking about, and I don't believe the numbers. Some other people have said 35% of the snaps. I don't believe Nick Sirianni would be that stringent and say, you're going to play 35% of the snaps. However, I do believe it was made clear to him that he's not going to be the number 1 tight end. He's not going to play as much as he's used to. And that's because they want, and by the way, they're right, Jody. They're completely right. They want more speed on the field. That's how you're successful in the NFL. They don't want to play all that 12 personnel. And as I pointed out, Doug Peterson didn't want to play all that 12 personnel either. He felt he had to because his receivers stink. Well, other than Devonta Smith, who I think is going to be a really good player, and I acknowledge he's unproven and maybe I'm skipping steps, but I know you're on my side there at least. Other than Devonta Smith, guess what? Everybody else might still stink. Now, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they develop, but there's nothing there that's proven. And there's nothing there that says, oh, this might be really good, and certainly not better than Zach Ertz, who is a proven, you can make an argument if he has a few more big years, borderline Hall of Fame tight end. Guess what? Quez Watkins ain't going to be that. John Hightower ain't going to be that. Greg Ward, with all due respect, ain't going to be that. Travis Fulgham ain't going to be that. So if you're Nick Sirianni, and forget about blowhards like me, Jody, because it doesn't matter. People like me don't matter. But you talk about competition in that locker room, and those guys know Zach Ertz is better, but he's not playing. I think that creates issues.
Right. But here's where I'll take the coach dead at his word, not weigh on what a reporter like yourself or anybody else says. I'll take the word of the coach when he looked into the camera and said it. And even as this, I'll call him a liar. At this, I'll call him a liar. I don't believe every position is open for competition. Fletcher Cox is not competing for snap reps, okay? He's going to play when he's going to play. But I do believe there's a competition for receiver snaps. That Zach Ertz, if he goes out and performs and plays better and makes plays, is going to play. They're not going to just continue to put Quez Watkins or John Hightower out there because they want to get faster. No, they want to move the football down the field. They want to get first downs. They want to get touchdowns. And I believe this is where, when the coach says it's about competition, he's telling the truth and he will act accordingly. He will put the guys on the field and give them the best chance to move the ball down the field. Speed or position be damned. Just give me a guy who can make plays down the field. And if that's Zach Ertz, rather than Quez Watkins or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside or John Hightower or Jalen Reagor or anybody, he's going to put 2 tight ends out there. And, oh, by the way, if Zach Ertz comes in and Zach Ertz is killing it, and Dallas Goedert is having issues and or is injured, Zach Ertz could go back to being the number 1 tight end on this team like that. As long as he's here, they attempt to trade him, nothing works out, they're going to play the best football player. And I don't think Dallas Goedert has done enough in his career that they say, well, Zach, sorry, we've decided, even though you're making more plays, you had 8 catches last week and Dallas had 2. Yes, this week we're still going to have Dallas on the field for 75% of the snaps. We're only going to have you on the field for 35% of the snaps. I don't think that the coach is going to do that. I think he's going to play the guy who's making plays for him.
I will say this, Jody. I think you're being very 2021 centric here. And I don't think it's about 2021 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that comes straight from the owner on the record when he says transition year. From their philosophy, and again, you can say, okay, I don't believe McMullen. When you have 6 or 7 different reporters reporting the same thing, and I'm telling you, I'm looking you straight in the eye. I didn't talk to anybody else, and they all have the same information as me. Well, that tells me that's pretty solid information. And he was told he was not going to be the number 1 tight end. And by the way, that's one of the reasons he didn't want to be back. Let me just interrupt for a second. I believe you and everybody else who's reported that says today, as we say it, before camp ever opens up, Dallas Goedert is the number 1 tight end. Oh, I believe that. I'm saying if the season starts, practices gets underway. I won't even go injuries. I'll say both of them are healthy. If Zach Ertz is making more plays and doing more things on the field when given the chance with less snaps to start, they will not be adverse to flipping the roles of the 1 and the 2 tight end. That Zach Ertz could absolutely reclaim his spot as the number 1 tight end. I'll believe you when you report that the plan is for Goedert to be number 1. I understand why the plan would be for Goedert to be number 1, younger, a guy they want to sign to a contract. I understand all that football philosophy. But once they're both in camp, once the season starts, I believe that Nick Sirianni will lean toward the guy who's playing better. Let what was said during the offseason to members of the media, esteemed members of the media like John McMullen, be damned. Let what happens on the field dictate who plays, how many plays. Well, I will say this. To me, it doesn't even matter, Ertz versus Goedert, because they're both going to play, because they're both better than all the secondary receivers if it's really about competition. So we'll see. We'll have that answer if Zach Ertz is here. I truly believe that, because there's no way in the world that third receiver, whoever you want to throw out there at me, whether it's Fulgham or Ward or Watkins, there's no way they're going to be better than Zach Ertz, even coming off a bad year, even the fact that he's over 30. There's just no way. They're not in the same league. So we're going to see. We're going to see. And by the way, Howie Roseman factors into this as well, because guess what? He's got a lot of power. He might tell Nick Sirianni what he has to do and who he has to play, because he's going to tell him what the game day roster is. I can tell you that. He might decree it. And that decree, by the way, might come from Jeffrey Lurie. However, we're talking about a transition year. So this is similar to Aaron Rodgers at a much lower level in Green Bay. You know, the assumption coming out of Green Bay by a lot of people now is, let's get through this season, then we'll trade you, Aaron, sort of a lame duck situation. We'll see if that works out. Zach Ertz isn't going to be here next year. They're not going to work out an extension and pay 2 tight ends like the Patriots when they don't want to play 12 personnel. He's not going to be here next year.
But as my
scenario, he plays out this year.
As my esteemed colleague, John McMullen, tells me often, the Eagles like to try and serve 2 masters.
They do.
Yes, Jeff Lurie did come out and say this is a transition year on the day that they gave Doug Peterson his walking papers. Although he didn't really deserve to be fired, he was fired. On that day, that's when Jeff Lurie called it a transition year. Yet they signed Ryan Kerrigan this offseason. And they've got Josh Sweat, who's in a contract year and could become a free agent at the end of the year. You'd think they'd want to get him as many snaps as possible so they can evaluate how much they want to extend him, despite the fact that they have Derek Barnett, who's in a contract year, who this year is the 4th highest paid player on the Eagles. fifth-year option on a rookie contract goes through the roof. He is the fourth highest paid player. I'd argue he's not close to being the fourth best player on the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's the fourth highest paid player on the Philadelphia. So you would think that they would want to get as many snaps into him to evaluate whether they want to keep him going forward. Yet they signed Ryan Kerrigan. Why? Because they want to win football games this year. Because they don't want to be 4-11-1 again. And that's what I'm telling you will factor in on the Zach Ertz signing, that even if the future says it's better to have Dallas Goedert out there 98% of the snaps, even though it's better to see what Quez Watkins and the like are at wide receiver. If Zach Ertz is helping them win football games and making plays for them the first couple of weeks of the season, he will play that much more going forward.
Well, I brought up Kerrigan, as you mentioned, Jody, but that's really cost effective. I would say if you look forward, and this will be, if Zach is here, as I said, this will be his last year in Philadelphia, because they're not going to pay two tight ends. It's as simple as that. They're not going to pay top of the line money. And you could say, well, maybe if he doesn't have a big year, you can have a Kerrigan-like deal. And guess what? If he gets a Kerrigan-like deal, you don't want him anyway, most likely, because that means he's had a bad season, a really bad season. So I think the contracts kind of washed that argument away, Jody. But look, I just think it complicates things even further for a rookie head coach. That's my only issue. Zach is better than any third receiver you can potentially have on this team, and he wants more speed on the field. Is that the right move? You can argue that, but that's what he wants to do. And as I said, that's what Doug Peterson wanted to do as well. He couldn't, because his two tight ends were better than his awful receivers. Bottom line.
Well, we've given you our opinions on Mr. Ertz and the fact that it seems like he's staying at least for a period of time. Coming up next, the guy who's going to join us is the guy who advanced the conversation on Zach Ertz. Broke the story yesterday. Zach has been in the facilities working out with the Birds, so it looks like he's coming back. At least for the opening of camp, we'll find out how long. We'll get the opinion of the Eagles sideline report on their radio network and host on WIP. Howard Eskin going to join us next here on Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
On a countdown to camp edition of Birds 365. We appreciate you tuning in, and we appreciate our next guest joining us. He is the sideline reporter for the Eagles on their radio network, and you catch him every Saturday morning on WIP, and he's on WIP shows basically all day long. Every time you turn around, Howard's a guest on somebody's show. Well, he's a guest with us now here on Birds 365. Howard Eskin jumps aboard with us. How are you, Howard?
I've never had a bad day in my life. Good morning, folks.
I also knew that one was coming. All right, first question. This has got to be mine because I really need the answer to this. Yesterday, we had Jeffrey Knox of Eagles Insider on with us, and he referred to both John and myself as sir. And I felt very uncomfortable with that. I kept turning around to see if he was talking to someone else. I just would like to know, would you like me to call you sir, Howard, Mr. Eskin, the King, or Spike Eskin's dad? I'll call you whatever you want. Just let me know ahead of time so I can get it right.
Well, forget about the Spike Eskin's dad because I didn't name him Spike. He named himself Spike. So that's that. All
okay.
Right. Mr. Eskin is too formal. The King is okay, but Howard is just fine. How's that?
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And Spike is no longer, Spike Howard is no longer Jody's boss. So,
yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's still my boss.
Oh, that's right. FAN. I take that back. So he's got to be. Yeah.
PBS radio.
So obviously, but let's go with King. The King is in the house. So Howard, obviously, everyone looked at your report with Zach Ertz, and we know this whole narrative throughout the offseason has been that Zach is not going to be here. I think it was self-evident. Zach basically said goodbye at the end of last season and is very emotional about it. But Howie has been pretty steadfast that he wants value in return for Zach Ertz if he was going to move him. Hasn't been able to get that. I think the most important part of your report was that Zach is at the facility. He's been working out with his teammates. Where do you think Zach is mentally, and do you think he wants to play out his contract in Philadelphia?
I think mentally, the reason he came back is because mentally he's now okay. The past is the past. He's kind of accepted the fact that there really aren't teams out there that want to trade for him and give up what the Eagles want. First of all, it's difficult to trade whether you even getting a 6th or 7th round pick because you've got to take on his contract. The cap went down this year. There's not a lot of teams right now that need a tight end. And some teams, obviously, Buffalo was in the mix. I don't think Buffalo was really, or the reports were they were in the mix. I don't think they really were. Indianapolis, you would think, but they have a tight end as well. And they're not giving up a draft pick and taking on an $8+ million contract. So that's the reality of the situation. I think the most important thing when I was told that Zach was back in the facility is that he's back. He's accepted it. He's talked to veteran players. Those guys that were sitting out with him, some of them are still here after the last game. We remember they were sitting out on the field quite a while. One of those people was Jason Kelce, and I'm sure he's spoken quite often to Jason Kelce. And they welcome him back, and Zach's accepted that. I said in the report that there's a great chance that he would be here opening day. I think there's a good chance. I mean, I'm mincing words here, but if there's nobody out there that has an injury for a tight end or with a tight end, I don't think Zach gets traded. And with that, I think he's here to start the season. But the most important thing, I think, out of everything, back in the facility, he's been working out with the team. He will be there when they report on Tuesday. and he's accepted what's happened in the past. He's let the past move by, and obviously he feels comfortable around players that he's been with before. And personally, I think he's a great influence for younger players in the locker room. Now, is he going to be the starting tight end? No, not unless Dallas Goedert gets hurt. Dallas Goedert's your starting tight end. Will Nick Sirianni use two tight ends in his offense like Doug Peterson did a lot last year and the years before? I hear he may not. So I don't know how much Zach is going to play. Here's another thing to consider. Zach, I think, is 20 catches away from being the all-time Eagles receiver. And that makes I know that makes him feel good when he surpasses that, because he's supplanted. First of all, he's in Eagles history anyway, scoring the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But the reality is he will be in their history, and I don't know that anybody is going to pass that anymore with the way players move around and players get hurt. So that's something that I think he thought about and said, you know what, it'd be good, let all the bygones be bygones. He didn't get a contract they offered him. He's not going to get it now, and he's accepted playing here. And I think, John, you said it. It's it's going to be his last year in something, unless something crazy happens.
There's a couple things at play here, Howard. Certainly playing time. You mentioned he's going to be the number 2 tight end. We don't disagree with that. The fact that you say Nick Sirianni not looking to go to 12 personnel and 2 tight ends, I believe that that's his goal. But if Zach Ertz comes into camp and has the kind of form that he had previously, he may force his way onto the field. A lot of this comes down to timing. The Eagles would, I think, they'll still believe, be open to trading Zach Ertz, but want to get something in exchange. There's got to be a team that's willing to take on his salary that's on the contract right now. If this doesn't happen because of injury, if a spot doesn't open up with another team, would the Eagles think about still cutting Zach Ertz between now and the start of the season? If they do, what do you think they would earmark the money that they would save by cutting Zach Ertz for?
Well, let me take the back part of your question first. I don't think there's anybody to really earmark the money for right now. I mean, they need another corner probably, but if they wanted that, there's a couple of guys out there. If they wanted them, I think they would have already signed them. The asking price is probably too much, and those players are probably waiting for teams to have an injury as well to get more money. So I don't think they need the money now. They could during the season if things happen. And they need to go out and trade for a player and then fit him under their cap. But I don't think right now, because they don't need the money, that they would think, you'd like to have that money saved for your cap. But I think you go down the road, if he's going to be with him in camp, you're not going to cut him to start the season. I just don't think you're going to do that. And I think he would be here and be an Eagle. Hey, let's face reality. Number one, they're not going to the Super Bowl. Number two, it's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs. Howie wants to get the fans back on his side. And this is a good, and Zach can probably still play. Not probably. He still can play a little bit. He's not the starter. So with all those things considered, if you had to make a run at the Super Bowl, I would say, do you want to keep that money or save it for somebody else? But they're not making a run at the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody that watches and covers the Eagles, it's exciting to have them make a run at the playoffs. But, there's teams, just maybe team that's better than them. I think the Cowboys will always choke. I think the Redskins are really good coach. They have a quarterback that's better than the garbage they had last year. And they have a great defense. So I don't know that the Eagles are going to be in a position to make a run, even in a bad division. So no, all things said, if there's nobody out there that suffers an injury and nobody feels like they need a tight end, I just don't see any. They're not going to trade him, and I don't see any reason that they would cut him. That's an opinion. The fact that he's here, I think, is a positive. And I think people are excited about that. I mean, Zach's a great guy. And he really, the one thing that I'll never forget, and John, you probably saw this too, and I've been covering the Eagles for a long time, and I've never seen the chemistry, never, that the Eagles had in that locker room in that Super Bowl year. I've never seen it before, and I don't know that I'll ever see it again. And that's important for a football team. Now, is he going to turn this team around by chemistry? No. But he does. He will help. He will be a mentor like people were mentors to him. And I think that will be a positive for this football team, because they do have a lot of young players that just have to understand what it's all about. It's not that it's a tough game. It's not that easy. So I think that's a positive too.
Yeah, I don't think anybody questions Howard. Zach is going to be great in the locker room for these young players. I don't even think anybody blinks about that. I think that's why Howie thinks he can go down this road, because he knows Zach is going to be a professional. He even used the term, sometimes you got to be the bad cop. But I do want to revert. You mentioned the salary cap, and you're right. Eagles have a little under $5 million, I think, right now. They don't need it right now. But, you know, as you mentioned, you've been covering this team for a long time. You can go back to the Joe Banner era. The history of the Eagles is they identify young players they want to extend early, and they get team-friendly deals done. One of those guys they want to get done is Dallas Goedert. If you do want to get an extension done with Dallas Goedert, because if he plays this year, Howard, and he's the player we think he's going to be, he could be the highest paid tight end in football. That's how this works. So the Eagles don't have that financial flexibility to get a team-friendly extension done with Dallas Goedert unless they do something with Zach Ertz. That's a little bit of a conundrum.
You know what? What I've seen the Eagles, and it's magic. I don't know how they do it sometimes, but they play around with the numbers, and they always seem to find a way, even when it's tight. And maybe you push the money into next year. When it opens up, you don't have Carson Wentz money there. You don't have a lot of things there that you have this year, which have caused a cap issue, or an issue meaning they don't have a lot of money. And next year, besides that, the cap goes up. So there's always a way to kind of sign him, but then push it. You know, I'm not in there, and I don't play around with their numbers, and I don't know how they do it sometimes. But I think they can find a way. If they want to sign Dallas Goedert to a cap-friendly contract, and they can do it, they'll find a way. And Dallas Goedert's not going anywhere. So instead of getting X amount of dollars in a signing bonus now, you just push it to next year, and you find a way to put it down the line. I don't know how they do it, but I think they can find a way if that happens. I don't know what his numbers are going to be. I don't know that he'll surpass Kittle. He'll surpass Kelsey, even though the cap does go up next year, but they don't know what it is yet. I'm not worried that much about that. And Zach Ertz is $8 million. $8 million. It's a little over $8 million, I guess. I don't think that's going to be as big an issue as we may think it will be in terms of signing Dallas Goedert. I think that'll all play itself out, and it'll be fine. That's just my feeling. They find a way when they want a player, and if a player wants to sign, he finds a way to do it as well.
All right, Howard, I want to tap into your sources again. And they were very good to you yesterday with the Ertz's on the premises information. Last week, Charles Robinson, NFL Network, came out and said, some Eagle player telling me they're not sure about Nick Sirianni. It spurred Lane Johnson to step up and go, yeah, how about you name names if you're going to go down there and throw the coach under the bus? I think the coach has done a great job with it. So this is not the first team that this has ever happened to. Varying sides of reports as to how the coach is doing and what the players actually think about him. You got damn good sources inside that room. What is the finger on the pulse emotion right now for Nick Sirianni in the very early stage of his coaching career here in Philly?
Well, I can't say it's 100%, but the players have really embraced Nick Sirianni, his enthusiasm, and I love Doug Peterson, and I think he did a great job. I mean, you know, he won him a Super Bowl. You can say what you want, but they love his enthusiasm. change in sports is important in the pursuit of success, and it just creates a new energy. When Jalen Hurts came in, did Jalen Hurts have a good 4 games? Maybe 1.5 games were good, but it created an energy, and everybody had excitement about that because it was something new and something fresh. Is there somebody in there that's not quite on board with Nick Sirianni or questions that? Yeah, I mean, does everybody love Tom Brady? Probably not, regardless of where he's been. Does everybody love Aaron Rodgers? Probably not. We're talking about 2 great quarterbacks. So I don't even worry about that. I believe Michael Robinson was accurate. When, as a reporter, you can't name sources, otherwise you'll never get the information. But you better be accurate, because eventually you'll wear out your welcome with other people if they're not right. Is there somebody in there? Yeah, I mean, who does Michael Robinson know? I think there's only one player from Penn State.
Yeah, you can't, players talk to each other. I don't want to throw Miles under the bus, but you're right, Howard.
No, and I'm not going to. No, I don't want to do it either, and it's not fair. But who is he talking to? Who does he really know?
Yeah.
And Miles could say, hey, there's a couple of guys in here that don't, and maybe not Miles. There's a couple of guys in here that are not quite on board. Hey, they're Penn State guys. They talk to each other. Yeah. I'm okay with that. And I don't really care what Michael Robinson said, unless it's the whole team. But I think there's an energy in there. Knowing what people have said about Nick Sirianni, his energy is great. Games are different, but his energy is great. He's got enthusiasm. He obviously knows offense. His decisions during the game, and I made a comment to Nick Sirianni. I said, you're going to win a game this year, and there's going to be some questionable play calls or a questionable decision, and you're going to get, in their own way, reporters in their questions to criticize what you did. So he said, that's what I signed up for. I said, okay, then that's fine. But so he's ready for that. And he knows if he doesn't win in a couple of years, he may not be here after a couple of years. That's just the way it is in the NFL anymore. You move on a lot of times from coaches. They don't even care what they pay these guys anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I believe most of the players, is it 100%? No. Is it 97%, 95%? Yes, I believe that. And I think we can get carried away with something. But Lane Johnson, he wants to defend his head coach, and that's fine. The one thing I hope for Lane is he stays healthy, along with Brooks and along with Kelsey. And if that happens, they could have a good team if that offensive line stays healthy. So with all that said, I'm fine with Nick Sirianni, and we'll see. You judge him during the games more than anything else, and how the players respond.
Yeah.
And right now, most of them are. Yeah.
To me, Howard, it's even simpler than that. You can line up the next 90 people you see. They're not going to agree on everything. The next 90 people I meet, I guarantee one of them's not going to like me. There's going to be a lot more. That's just life. To me, it's common sense. But I do you brought up the point, Nick's going to get tough questions, and there's no question, even after wins, from reporters. Well, guess what? You might get questions from Jeffrey Lurie. You had that McClain report about the Eagles upsetting Green Bay, and Jeffrey wasn't happy because they didn't throw the ball enough. So to me, that's more important. Is Nick Sirianni going to upset the Kansas City Chiefs? And is Jeffrey Lurie going to say, oh, you didn't win the right way? The bigger question is Jeffrey Lurie going to micromanage Nick Sirianni?
He'll probably have his opinions. I think the coach still has to make his decisions. And that's why I think Doug Peterson left. He got tired of not being able to make all his decisions. He fired himself, and he was okay with that. And he'll coach somewhere, probably as an assistant before he's a head coach again next year. I talked to Doug a few weeks ago at Ron Jaworski's golf tournament. Sit out this year. He's still getting paid. And then we'll see what happens. But I don't think Nick Sirianni will let Jeffrey completely is probably the wrong word. That's probably stating it wrong. I think right now he'll let Nick Sirianni coach his team. He's not going to coach. I think we kind of overstate his involvement. He has opinions. He's the owner. The owner of any company has opinions. Football is more public, obviously. But I think Nick Sirianni is going to do his first year what he's going to do. And he's probably gotten some advice from Frank Reich, who's been here through some of that. So yeah, I think he'll be fine with that. I'm just, first of all, I don't think they're going to upset Kansas City. I'm just going to.
They're not going to upset Kansas. I was just throwing it out there in the fact that you got to be happy.
I think they're going to upset. I think they're going to upset Tampa Thursday night. Well, short week on the road after 2 emotional games for Tampa. I've looked at that schedule, so I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to upset Tampa.
Yeah. My larger point is if you win a game like that by hook or by crook, no matter how you win it, you should be happy. My larger point would be, is Jeffrey going to be happy, or does Nick Sirianni have to win a certain way, which at the end of the day is a difficult position to be in as a head coach. And I think that wore on Doug Peterson at times. Doug was thrilled to upset Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And then after the game, he's getting questions on how you win the game. It's strange. I will say that.
Yeah, well, sports is a funny thing, especially with owners, with general managers, with sometimes your own people. If you didn't throw the ball enough, was the quarterback happy with that? But you got to let, and when they say, we don't always believe, let the past be the past. That was last week when Belichick abuses that ability to say, well, I'm not, we're talking about this team, not about that team. So sometimes you have to do that. And, in his first year, it's a love story. So in his first year, it'll be fine. Even if Jeffrey Lurie says, you know what, why didn't you do this? Knowing why he asked the question. Hey, that's what a head coach has got to deal with. He's still going to get his money. And he's going to try to win games.
That's true.
And you know what? When they get Deshaun Watson, then he'll have a better chance to win games after that.
Yeah, that's where we go.
Before we get to Deshaun Watson and look forward at the quarterback position, I want to just take one quick step back with Carson Wentz. Howard, you've been doing this a long time. You know that nothing happens in a vacuum, that what Carson Wentz does or doesn't do in Indianapolis doesn't mean he would have done the exact same thing here in Philadelphia. But you talk to enough Eagle fans, I talk to enough Eagle fans. There are a whole bunch of people who are going to draw that conclusion. If Carson Wentz goes to Indy and he's great, oh, shoot, he could have been great here. If Carson Wentz goes to Indy and stinks, oh, we made a great move by getting rid of Carson Wentz. And neither one of those things is 100% for sure. However, we will watch Carson Wentz and we will draw some conclusions. How do you think he's going to do out there under Frank Reich?
I think he's going to have a good year. He's got better people around him. He's got a better offensive line from what the Eagles' offensive line was last year. He's got to do some things better himself. There's no question that he's got to be better. But again, change for him. I didn't like the way, I think people went overboard in the criticisms of Carson Wentz, and players didn't like him, and all these things that came out. I think that was overstated. Not everybody likes everybody, and he didn't handle the adversity well, and that was disappointing. But he's got a better team around him. Starting with the offensive line, and I think he's going to have a good year. Now, I agree. That doesn't mean he would have had that year here with the Philadelphia Eagles. It all goes back to the drafting of Jalen Hurts, which I think it really screwed him up. But again, you have to overcome. That's what sports is, especially in football. There's always somebody trying to take your job. And the Eagles kind of forced that a little bit more than they probably should have with the selection of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback down the line. Everybody's going to be happy about it. If he's not, you're going to look back and say, if they didn't draft Jalen Hurts, could Carson Wentz still have been the guy? and been good at that position. So, but I think he's going to do well in Indianapolis. They have a really tough schedule in a really tough division. But I still think he's going to have, obviously it's going to be a better year, and I think he's going to have a good year. And as long as he plays 70% of the snaps, the Eagles get another first round. So anybody that's rooting against Carson Wentz is stupid. Only because it only helps these Eagles if he plays better, because he's in there for at least 70% for the season. So yeah, I think he's going to be fine.
All right, Howard, you opened the door with Deshaun Watson. So I want to tackle this from two angles. One with Jalen Hurts, because I've said this pretty consistently. You mentioned the 3 first-round picks. Howie has built up quite the insurance policy, so to speak. They're going to have cap room. They can do whatever they want after this season. Presumably, Deshaun Watson is going to play again. The question is when. If there is going to be a suspension, how long? There's too much uncertainty right now, but it won't die. And we know Howie Roseman, and we know he calls on everybody and he does his due diligence. And we know Jeffrey Lurie has proven in the past an owner willing to give people second chances. So, number one, can Jalen Hurts do anything in 2021 to be the long-term answer for the Philadelphia Eagles? Or is this truly a transition and the Eagles are going to move toward a Deshaun Watson or a rookie top 10 pick in next year's draft at the quarterback position?
Well, number one, to deal with Jalen Hurts, I'm not sure, and I don't think they're sure. Obviously, they got the picks. They have the ability to use those picks to either trade up or trade. They're in good position if Houston decides to trade Deshaun Watson. There's other teams, obviously, that want him. Are they in as good a position as the Eagles? I don't think so. But Jalen Hurts, first and before everything else, has got to prove he's not just a running quarterback. I know the offenses have changed, but I think mobile quarterbacks are mobile to buy time to throw the football. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's a running quarterback. No, he's really not. He only runs, I think his average last year was 3.5 times a game. He only ran the ball an average of 3.5 times a game. No, he buys himself time to get to an open receiver. So I think that's what Jalen Hurts has got to do. He's got to, after his primary receiver, he's got to be able to make his progressions and read down the line and not just run if the first option is not there. So he's got to be better. I mean, Chris Sims, I had Chris Sims on my radio show, and I put it on a podcast. He didn't put him in his top 40 projected for 2021 quarterbacks. And he said he's seen throws that a senior high school quarterback makes that Jalen Hurts didn't make last year. That's damning. You can say what you want about Chris Sims. He wasn't a good quarterback in the NFL, but I think he's sharp. I think he does his homework. He watches a lot of tape, and he sees things. And he mentioned he throws a lot with his arm and not his body, and that creates inaccurate throws. I know people say, his completion percentage wasn't good because he throws the ball away. Well, every quarterback throws the ball away when there's nothing there. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. But he's obviously watched enough tape to see why his throws in a lot of cases were inaccurate, and he felt that he really should have thrown. There would have been more interceptions if defenders had just caught the football. Jalen Hurts has got to get better. And if he gets better, then things will be better for the Eagles. Now, it depends when all this Deshaun Watson stuff goes down. I would think there's no way he's not getting suspended. So will a team make the trade before they announce that or after they announce that? And will teams take a chance on that? Whoever gets him, he's not playing the whole season. Whether it's civil suits, it doesn't matter. The NFL, if you've committed the crime, it's not a crime. Well, it is a crime. If you've committed what they say you've done, regardless of whether you're guilty in a court of law, regardless of whether you make a settlement or don't make a settlement, you're going to get suspended. And I think everybody recognizes that. But before everything else, Jalen Hurts has got to be better.
Hey, Howard, a real quick follow-up because of what you just said. To me, the biggest thing is this is a Jeffrey Lurie decision. He's got to make that decision. Will he bring Deshaun Watson into this organization when everything is cleared up to a certain degree? Because there are still going to be a lot of people upset because those are serious allegations. Where are you on that part of it? Do you think Jeffrey Lurie would default to giving this guy a second chance, as he's done in the past pretty consistently?
My answer is yes. I think he will give him a second chance because in the NFL, Andy Reid was so proper in doing things. He brought Michael Vick in to give him a second chance, and Michael Vick really cleaned up his act. Michael Vick is a good person now. What he did is just horrific, what he did. And we will never completely get over that. But he's turned into a pretty good guy. But Andy Reid now has guys on his team. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it almost doesn't matter. If a guy can play, a guy can play. Do I agree with that? No, not necessarily. Do people agree with that? But I saw Michael Vick turn it around. I don't know if all the people on the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's their problem. I mean, the wide receiver, you got to be kidding me. I mean, we know he did what he was accused of, but he can play. If it's a guy that's, the 44th man on a roster, he's not there. But when a guy can play, he's there. And that's, unfortunately, what professional sports has turned into, not just the NFL. And you suffer a suspension and you lose some money. So the interesting part is, will Deshaun Watson report to camp next week? If he doesn't want to lose $50,000 a day, he'll report to camp. He's already going to lose money. I think he'll be there with the understanding, I'm going to be here, but you guys got to try to move me and then go from there. I don't like when players tell teams, Aaron Rodgers, just shut up. Aaron, you want to give back $30 million bonus? Yeah, give back $30 million and get traded. Go ahead. Let's see you pony up that money. And I like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a great quarterback and a great guy too. But this is nonsense.
I think the commissioner will be heard from next week when Texans camp comes open and they have to make a decision whether Deshaun's going to show or not. Speaking of Deshaun, it was 12 years ago, Howard, when Deshaun Watson set the Eagles rookie receiving record at 912 yards. So the over-under is 912 and a half. Is Devonta Smith going to own that record by the time the Eagles season, with one extra game, remember, included 17 this year, 912 yards? Will he reset the Eagles rookie wide receiver record?
Well, that's a really tough question, and I'm going to say no. And the only reason I'm going to say no is because there's been so much attention given to Devonta Smith. And I would think they're both just as fast as each other, Jackson and Smith. But there's going to be so much attention. I wouldn't be surprised if teams double him and say, go throw to Rager, throw to Ward, throw to Dallas Goedert. We're not going to let you beat us with Devonta Smith. And I think because of that, I think the Eagles will spread it around a little bit more than they did when Deshaun Jackson was here. And that's the only reason, even with the 17th game. So I think for a few years, he's going to stay healthy. Boy, he's little. My God, he's tall.
He is. Those legs, man. Woo.
Toothpicks. They're like toothpicks.
And he won a Heisman Trophy on those toothpicks. So hopefully those toothpicks play as well here in Philadelphia as they did down in Alabama. Howard, you hung with us for an entire half an hour plus. We can't thank you enough. Great job breaking the story yesterday. Thanks for coming on Birds 365.
All right, anytime. You guys have a great day, and I will continue my streak of never having a bad day.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you Wednesday, King. Get ready for some grass time.
He is the king, Howard Eskin, here with his son. Here with his son, Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald coming back. We got plenty more to do. Trey Wingo, you remember him from ESPN. Now he's working for the Pro Football Network, has his own YouTube channel. Trey Wingo's going to join us in hour number 2. We'll come back, talk more Birds here on Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Thursday get together here on Birds 365 with the Mackamack guys, McMullen and McDonald. We thank the king, Howard Eskin, for hopping aboard with us and hanging as long as he did. And JM, I got to admit, and I used to talk to Howard all the time, crossovers on WIP. He was on after me, so I'd end up my show, throw it over to Howard. It would never fail that Howard and I would disagree about something. Usually I knew what that would be, and that's what I would ask him about, just so we could debate at the end of the show. But damn, I agreed with almost everything Howard had to say today. The one that kind of jumped out at me was Carson Wentz in a tough division. No, that's the only division in the AFC that compares to the NFC East, because they've got both Jacksonville, young and growing, and, oh, by the way, the Texans, who will probably be the worst team in the National Football League. Yeah. If you ask me to predict right now, who's going to have the number one pick in the draft next year? Who is Howie Roseman going to have to deal with if there's one quarterback that he wants, that he's got to have to be the next quarterback of the Eagles? He's probably going to have to work out a deal with the Texans, as a matter of fact, because I think they're going to be awful this upcoming season. So Carson's got some fertile ground to be able to play well against. That division is not very good. Tennessee is good, And the Colts are pretty good. They got two. They got haves and have-nots, but he's only got one team that I think he's got to.
Yeah, it's a top-heavy division, but the only thing I will say is because of the presence of Trevor Lawrence, we don't know what. Jacksonville could be much better. I mean, if that guy hits the ground running, if he's like Justin Herbert-like, and he's supposed to be better than that, well, all of a sudden, that's a pretty good team right off the bat. Now, it's a ton of uncertainty with Urban Meyer. I don't think Urban Meyer's even happy. He's already complaining about his lack of access to players and ability to practice. So I don't know how he's handling this transition. But there's at least a chance because of the talent of Trevor Lawrence. But you're right with the Texans. They're a disaster. Everybody knows they're a disaster. I do see some optimism. But then again, I look at the Jacksonville organization and say they'll screw it up. They always do.
And by the way, you're right. Herbert was the best rookie quarterback in the National Football League last year, much to the chagrin of Joe Burrow fans because he got hurt, to a Tagovailoa fans like me, didn't even win the job out of camp and was in and out of the lineup, being replaced by Fitzpatrick in games. Certainly Justin Herbert was the best rookie quarterback in the league last year. The Chargers weren't that bad a team. He joined a good team, and he elevated them, and he made them better. Trevor Lawrence is joining a team that legitimately went 1-15 last year. They 1-15. Yeah. So there is only one direction.
Well, they got to get better, yeah,
and that's up. But do you go, wow, we're improved? How about that 4-13 Jag squad? Okay. If you're a Jags fan and you want to go there, okay, fine. 4-13 is 4-13.
But you're right. You're right. But most important position in sports, and if you get that quarterback, how quickly it can turn around. We were talking about the Cowboys the other day and Troy Aikman showing up there, or maybe I was talking with Cilio. 1-15, all of a sudden they're a dynasty that quickly. Took 1 year and they were off and running. Peyton Manning early in his career, I think he had a 3-13 season. Then they were off and running. So you're probably right. It's going to be bad first season. But I'll tell you, it could turn around quickly in the NFL if you get the quarterback. And we'll see. I'm not going to say Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's been pretty consistent from personnel people, scouts around this league. This is the best quarterback prospect probably since Peyton Manning. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm still ticked off that the Jets won 2 games at the end of the season to lose out on Trevor Lawrence. I had him already penciled into my Jet team for the next decade, and that, of course, fell apart. But I do think it will take at least 1 year before we find out that Trevor Lawrence is his biggest star.
By the way, real quick, Jody, speaking of the Cowboys, did you see Jerry Jones had one of his talks, and he admitted he fucked it up with Jimmy Johnson? How about that? How long did it take?
20 plus years. He never quite got around to admitting that before. Good for Jerry. And maybe Jerry's reached that stage in his career where he's got to let bygones be bygones. Maybe there's a renewal of the friendship between he and Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, I doubt that. But he did. At least he admitted to it yesterday. And yes, the Cowboys get the jump on everybody in the National Football League. They opened up their camp in Oxnard yesterday, and we're on the NFL Network all day long. And they've also got Hard Knocks coming up. It's good. And the Cowboys are the best at promoting their team. It's not necessarily going to help them on the field. They're going to be better on the field this year because they got Dak Prescott back, and they've got a legit defense coordinator in Dan Quinn. But I'm still not I was pretty damn disappointed in Mike McCarthy last year. I don't think the Cowboys are a major threat to do things in the playoffs in this upcoming season. They might be the team to beat in the NFC East. Howard seemed to think it was the Redskins, but the Washington football team without question.
I think it's Washington as well. We at the Football Outsider guys, they think it's the Cowboys. Nobody thinks it's the Eagles. And by the way, that's the biggest thing I got from Howard. In our over 30 minutes with the King, Jeffrey Lurie, and I wrote about this in Philly Voice as well on Monday, he's given second chances. If he's got a chance to get Deshaun Watson, the Eagles are going after Deshaun Watson. I've been consistent with that. With Mike Garafolo on the show, he was pretty strong in his belief that the Eagles are going after him. How does that affect Jalen Hurts? I think he's going to be mentally tough to get through it, but I also think he's not a dumb kid. He also understands the situation, and he's got a very, very narrow path. And I continually say, and I continue to say, it's going to be difficult for him. I don't know what he can do. I've been talking about this for months now, Jody. I don't know what he can do to change their mind. That's how confident I am. Now, they might not get Deshaun Watson. That might be his best opportunity. Somebody comes in, blows him out of the water, and they don't get him. But, man, that's got to, even human nature, that's got to wear on the kid a little bit. I don't think he's going to fall. I don't think he's going to be a shrinking violet like Carson Wentz, but it's got to wear on him a little bit. They won't name him the starting quarterback. Everybody and their mother's talking about this team with Deshaun Watson. And again, you could say, oh, shut up, McMullen. Well, it's Schefter, it's Garafolo, it's Eskin. It ain't just me. It's got to wear on him.
Funny stuff. You and I have never, I had you on my show, my radio show 20 times before, like basically every week of last year's Eagle season. And you and I have now done, today is show 75, John. So about 100 times you and I have been on.
I should have worn my 75th anniversary NFL hat. I still
Do you have one of those?
Yeah, I got it somewhere.
Yeah, today's show 75 for you and I, if my counting is good. So you and I have done about 90 some odd shows together, and we may or may not have touched this on this, but I don't recall exactly what it was. I've had this conversation over the years, 100, 150 times with callers and the like, when you're leading up to a trade situation. There is an impetus when you're going to trade someone to trade that person to a team that you're going to compete against less. In other words, if we're talking about Deshaun Watson, they would prefer not to trade him to the Indianapolis Colts, knowing that they'd have to play him twice a year, every year, for however many years going forward. They would probably prefer to trade him to an NFC team against an AFC team because, as per the schedule, you play AFC teams more than NFC teams. I think that is woefully overstated many times. That if a team, that even if you're going to play in division, that you're going to play them twice, if they have the best offer on the table, and it's not debatable that they overpay to get a player, I think it's the responsibility of the general manager to take the best trade. Even if you've got to compete against that individual, suck it up, compete against him. You think you're smarter, you're going to build a better team, beat him, and then stick it in his eye while he's at it. So
that's easy to say, Jody. That is easy to say.
But it's coming from an ex-general manager's son. Yeah. So maybe it's within my genes, the bravado.
Well, I will say, go back in the day, the Eagles traded Donovan McNabb to Washington in the division. Now, I believe the Eagles knew he was shot, and that's why they were willing to do it. When you're talking about a player who's 25 and in the prime of his career, no, you're not trading him in the division. No, absolutely not. I mean, that is a recipe. As a son of a general manager, that is a recipe to get fired. To trade a guy to a heated rival in the prime of his career, who by the way, is really good, but you have to trade him for other reasons. I mean, you might as well start packing up the box in your office. You might as well. You're out. You're done. You're cooked. That's why I say it's easy to say. They might give you the best deal because you got to pay a premium. You got to pay a penalty. I'm still not doing it. I can't do it. Now, again, there are contextual parts to this. The Eagles knew Donovan McNabb was cooked. If for some reason they had to trade Donovan McNabb at 25, They wouldn't have traded him to the Washington
Right.
football team. The Redskins at the time wouldn't have done it, and they would have been right, even if they had the best offer.
Right. But if you are trading him in his prime and the guy who's at the top, oh, then you're getting a mega return back for the player. And if someone is going to go to levels of mega plus off the charts, you have to at least listen, even if you're going to compete against them. But I admit there's something to it. I just think some people oh my God, you can't trade him within the division. Yeah, you can if you're blown away. But I do think that there is a basis to start that conversation. You would prefer, if the deals are all close, get him to Siberia. Just get him the hell out of your neighborhood so you don't have to see it. You don't have to watch it. The Eagles and the Texans are only going to play once every 4 years.
Yeah. They're Siberia.
They do.
Yeah.
So the Eagles are the type of destination that the Texans would like to relocate Mr. Watson to if there's a deal to be had. That I certainly would agree with.
And some of the other teams, Miami, Denver, again, they're not in the division, but they're in the conference. Carolina's one team out of the conference, so they could be back in the mix. I don't think it's definitive because they traded for Sam Darnold that said, okay, we're moving forward. We will not even think about trading for a proven difference maker. I think they certainly would. So there are going to be other. I brought up Washington because they have so much other than draft picks. I think, and everybody, and Howard brought it up again, everybody talks about the Eagles' potential 3 first-round picks. And they're right that they have more than anybody else to start from. But if you start bringing players into the equation, people don't even think that way. And I bring up Chase Young all the time for a reason, because he's such a good player. He's so young. And I'm not saying Washington would do it, but all of a sudden, if they say, wow, we need a quarterback, let's go get this guy. It's a more important position. We'll throw Chase Young in the mix. That changes the whole equation.
Oh, yeah.
So there are going to be teams that nobody's even thinking about, because a 25-year-old, and this is what I wrote in Philly Boys, a 25-year-old top 5 quarterback in the NFL on the market, that's a unicorn, Jody. Proven guy at 25. Now, obviously, there's always reasons, and the reasons are ugly, but that guy's a unicorn from just a football perspective. Right. You don't see that.
He's already proven. Now, if we're talking about the Eagles moving up, packaging all their picks to get a guy like Deshaun Watson, we believe the Eagles are going to have a good pick. If you and I are right, and they're actually 8-9, well, and it's going to be somewhere in either the low 10s or the low teens or the high 10s, which is a good pick. If you think the Colts, as Howard just described, that weak division or that tough division that is the Central, AFC Central, don't believe it. Their pick is probably going to be high teens to low 20s. Personally, I think the Dolphins aren't involved in the Deshaun Watson talks. I think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to have a breakout second year.
You're a Tua guy. Yeah. Are you Tua's agent? I got to look that up.
I am not on Tua. No, what I am is a strong opinion guy. Devonta Smith, love him. Think he's going to be great. Justin Fields, love him. Think he's going to be great. The previous year, Tua Tagovailoa, love him, think he's going to be great. And he's got to go really bad before I go, all right, I was wrong. And I'll do that. Carson Wentz, loved him. Guess what? I was wrong. He's a weak-willed individual. Best of luck in Indianapolis, Carson. So you got to have your strong opinions, but then when you're proven wrong, you admit to it. I am not admitting to anything on Tua Tagovailoa yet. I think there were a lot of reasons and explanations that he had as mediocre a rookie year as he did, and will flourish here in year number 2. So, oh, by the way, that's the Eagles' pick that they own with the trade down and then trade back up again. They've got Miami's pick. I think Miami's going to win 9 or 10 games this year. So that's going to be in the teens to the low 20s. They're first-round picks, and first-round picks are always good. High first-round picks are even better when you're trying to get to the very top of a draft. Or if you're the Houston Texans giving up to Deshaun Watson to get those first-round picks, well, what's the value of those first-round picks? They're good. They're solid. They're not off the charts great. They're just going to be more encompassing as far as overall number goes than anybody else. But try and remember just anytime, we're giving them 3 first-round picks. Yeah, but where are those first-round picks going to fall? You do need to keep that factored in as to whether the Texans will be willing to part with as great a young up-and-coming talent as Deshaun Watson.
And I will always say that probably the 2 certainties are Indianapolis is going to be probably, depending on, they're going to be either a playoff team or close to a playoff team, but not a top-tier playoff team. So I think you're right on where they're going to be. The Eagles, now everybody, we're the optimistic ones. I get a kick out of it, Jody, because everybody says I'm negative. We're the optimistic ones who says maybe they can get to 8 wins. Everybody's got them, all the mock drafts, all the early mock drafts has them picking in the top 10. I think the uncertainty is Miami. They could be anywhere. They're the team that they could win 4 games if Tua goes off the rails, and they could be really good if he turns into what you think he's going to be. I really think they're the uncertainty, and they could be anywhere, basically. They could be top 10. They could be in the 20s. They could be a playoff team. So I don't know what the heck Miami is going to be. You got a pretty good gauge on the Eagles and Colts. If the Eagles are in the top 10, like most people think they're going to be, then they're going to have the ammunition to go up. Now, maybe not to 1, but if you can put a top 10 pick together with 2 other first-round picks, you can do almost anything you want. So you don't want the Eagles to be that bad, but on the other hand, some people may want them to be that bad if the goal is to get at the top of the draft, because they're going to have that one sort of foundational first-round pick that's in the top 10 to move from there if they want to go up the board.
All right, so we got to take a break, and then we're hoping Trey Wingo joins us. Despite the fact that you and I are both on record leaving the back door open to change our mind, the only thing that matters is our pick the week before the season starts. But when this schedule came out, both you and I went WLWL and came out 8-9 for the Eagles. Knowing that, is the Eagle pick going to be the highest pick? Put in order, assuming Carson Wentz plays 70% with the Colts, and that is a first-round pick. Put them in order, best selection to highest selection, meaning lowest, you know what I mean. Number 20, number 25, number 17, number 10. The order of the 3 picks next year, if they've got their own pick, the Dolphin pick, and the Colt pick.
Yeah, I'm going to put the Eagles are going to be first, and it could be anywhere from probably, they're really bad, as some people think. You could be 4 or 5, up to probably the ceiling 12, 13, if they're in that range. I think Miami's next. They'll probably be 16. That's what they are to me. They might be right and smack dab in the middle. And then the Colts, I think, are going to be that bridge type of playoff team. So late teens, early 20s. I think it's going to fall in that direction. The worse, obviously, the Eagles are, the better for the 2022 draft. So as a fan, sort of like your Sophie's choice. We always talk about your Sophie's choice in the draft, Justin Fields or Devonta Smith. That's an Eagles fan Sophie's choice. Do you want to be up and be in a position to do whatever you want to be in the 2022 draft? If you do, it's better for this team to be bad. Sixers process talk. Are we at that point?
No. Don't go there. But I will disagree with you. Eagles pick will be the highest one. Colts pick will be second. Dolphins pick will be third. Because I'm telling you right now, Tua Tagovailoa will have a better quarterback year than Carson Wentz. If we believe that quarterbacks decide the fate of the team the great majority of the time, I can pick either of those 2 quarterbacks. I can't make the pick fast enough. Tua Tagovailoa over Carson Wentz.
Here's my concern over that, real quick, Jody. You might be right, but if one's 28 and one's 29, doesn't matter. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, can anybody hear it? If they both stink, doesn't matter. And that's a potential as well.
But if that's the case, then those Eagle picks will be that much higher, which will give them that much ammunition to get up to the top of the draft. Well, we can spin it for you any way you want. Hopefully, Trey Wingo joins us next. We'll get his spin on all things National Football League here on Birds 365.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
We are the Mac and Mac guys. Jordan McDonald and John McMullen here with on Bird 365. We'll open it from Trey Wingo soon. He'll hop aboard with us for our final half hour here. And when we get Trey on, we'll certainly ask him Eagles-related stuff, but we'll touch on all the things in the National Football League, including Deshaun Watson, including, John, just want to get your quick thought here and something we'll get to with Trey if he joins us. Latest big money player inked yesterday in the NFL. Linebacker Fred Warner of the 49ers did a contract extension for 5 years and $95 million. It's not quarterback money. I get it. It's not quite the quarterbacks get paid, but there are very few linebackers in the National Football League, as in none, who, if you break it down individually per year, $19 million per. That's the highest ever. Who are you pointing to earlier in the show? Goddard. Goddard could become the highest paid tight end. That's the way it works. If you're the guy who's up and you're close, you just jump above because the salary cap continues to go up and up and up and up. And I don't know that Fred Warner's the best linebacker, but as of today, he is the highest paid per year linebacker. Were you surprised at the number?
No, because that's how contracts work. It's about timing and circumstance. And we had Howard Eskin on earlier, and he said, Yeah, he's not going to get Dallas Goedert's not going to get as much money as George Kittle or Travis Kelce. He's not as good as those guys. That's not what I'm saying. But the timing and circumstance says he'll be in the conversation. He has a big year. He'll be able to have his agent go in and say, it's my turn. I should be the highest paid tight end in football.
Speaking of in the conversation, joining us on our conversation here on Birds 365 is our buddy Trey Wingo. He's still got his golfing hat on. I asked him to come on yesterday. He said he couldn't. He was going to the links. He hasn't taken the hat off yet. Does that mean you shot well yesterday, Mr. Wingo?
This means I look like crap, but I played all right. I played all right, Jody Mack. How are we? John, good to see you.
Good to see you, Trey. As long as you hit one. I hit one drive. That feels good. I want to walk right off the course. That's it for me. I want to go out on top.
I closed out strong. We'll leave it that way. The start was ragged, the middle was okay, but the finish was good.
Nice. That's all that matters.
Trey, John and I were just discussing before you came on the Fred Warner contract, getting big bucks from the San Francisco 49ers. Now the highest paid linebacker in football. Again, you can make numbers sing and dance depending on how you look at him in a salary cap world. Is he that good a player? Did the 49ers get him at a reasonable number? Did they overpay to get him? How would you rank Warner with the other linebackers in the league? Did that contract surprise you?
It surprised me in the terms of the numbers for an off-ball linebacker, right? Like he's not your classic edge linebacker. He's a really good player and really productive. And I've liked him since they drafted him, in the third round a few years ago. But listen, they're the numbers and the actual numbers, right? What is real in that $91 million deal? But I'm telling you, if that's the market for basically an inside linebacker, that's a surprising number for me. Not that he doesn't deserve it. I do think he's really, really good. But I think people like Darius Leonard of the Indianapolis Colts are looking at that contract and going, this is going to be really good for me. So I think that it's certainly raised the bar. But again, we went through last year with all the COVID restrictions and some of the things that the NFL lost revenue-wise. It's all coming back in spades this year. I mean, the money is just flowing in again.
Trey, you bring up an interesting point because you're right. People look at the numbers and they say, should you be paying an off-ball linebacker that much? We hear it with running backs all the time. Certain positions are so-called devalued. Now, from my perspective, it's a good idea to get good football players. Now, you prefer to have a quarterback who's great. You prefer to have, as you mentioned, an edge rusher who's great. But at the end of the day, if you get a good player, shouldn't you focus on let's keep the good player? Or do we overvalue that sort of mentality that you can't play running backs? You can't pay off-ball linebackers. Well, you can't pay bad ones or average ones, but the really good ones, look at Devin White.
Yeah, Devin White's going to get a monster contract when he's done too. And Devin, let's be honest, Devin probably should have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. I mean, to your point about how we overvalue quarterbacks, the Chiefs were held to 9 points for the first time with Patrick Mahomes healthy. That was the first time they'd ever been held under 30 in a playoff game. And somehow Tom Brady was the MVP. I'm like he played fine, don't get me wrong, but you're asking me who won the game. It was the defense and the defensive line, Devin White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The running back thing, though, was interesting, John, because I have sort of evolved on this position. I really would be hard-pressed to find a way that I could think that I would want to use a first-round pick on a running back these days, because so many running backs have been so productive from outside the second, third, fourth round even at this point. Alvin Kamara was a third-rounder, and look how productive he's been. Dalvin Cook was a second-rounder last year or a few years ago for the Vikings, and he's been so productive. The running back position to me is an interesting one. Like, you'd have to convince me that they're Adrian Peterson for me to think about it. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was a 8th overall pick in 2017, and he's been terrific. But he got injured last year, and we'll see what happens going forward. There's always going to be an anomaly like Derrick Henry. I think you have to pay him because he's such a part of the offense for the Tennessee Titans, and now they have Julio Jones to sort of, give that 1-2 punch. But I would find it much easier for me to be able to pay an inside linebacker that I think could ball out than use draft capital like a first-round pick on a running back the way the game has gone these days.
Here's my philosophy on that, and tell me if I'm off the wall and nuts, Trey. Here's how I look at running backs. I got no issues picking them in the first round. I would have no issues picking them in the first half of the first round if I thought he was down, like Saquon Barkley was a couple of years ago. He's just that good. He deserved to go as high as he did. Some injuries have kind of derailed him, but I think he'll get back on that type track this year. But here's the way I look at running backs. They're getting a first contract out of me. Yeah. If they're getting a second contract, it's going to be at a reduced rate than the one they just finished out the last year of the first contract, because you all know that fifth year goes up and up and up and up and up. Like this year with Derek Barnett. He's going to get paid big time by the Eagles. He's their fourth highest paid player. He's not their fourth best player, but that last year of a 5-year first-round contract does get up pretty damn quick. It's a turnaround. You keep them for their 5 years if you use a first-round pick, and then you have the next guy to step in the next year, and you're going to pay him at a slotted amount. That's how I would try and facilitate my running back position going forward. 5-year deal, done. We move on to next guy.
Yeah, and it's hard because you see guys that have been really productive in that first contract, and you say, yeah, you've earned more money, but you're always hedging the bet of when that stops with the running back, because it's the one, it's the position that is the most replaceable in football these days and the most likely to decline the quickest based on the number of hits that you're going to take at that position. And plus, we're not talking about like Emmitt Smith's record of 755 yards. I think is going to last forever. Like no one's doing that anymore. We're not running the ball. Like to me, you have to be a McCaffrey type, Alvin Kamara type, a Dalvin Cook type running back that is just as good as a receiver than he is as a runner. Like a 2,000-yard season to me is not nearly as impressive as a 1,000 season. 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving that McCaffrey had in 2019. Like that to me should be the new standard for what is excellence at the running back position.
When it comes to a GM, though, Trey, and to Jody's point, you have somebody like Derrick Henry who performs. Yeah. So if you're Jody and say, okay, let's move on to the next guy, but Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. Same thing has happened with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. Another name you mentioned, he's on his second contract. How do you not pay players like that?
Right. No, you're right. It's just it's always a dilemma. Like the Vikings didn't have to pay Dalvin when they paid him. I mean, the most egregious second contract for me was the Ezekiel Elliott one. Like the Dallas Cowboys reverse engineered this thing completely. They ended up paying their quarterback last in all of this. They paid. We talked about an off-ball linebacker. They paid Jalen Smith before they paid Dak Prescott, and Zeke Elliott held out, had suspension things and other issues, and they paid him before they paid Dak Prescott. Now, part of that I think was that the Dak team was basically told the Cowboys, "Look, man, we're not doing this until we absolutely need to, because he's set, he's port. So we're you can throw whatever we want at us, but it's going to be more than what unless you're willing to pay over what the market is right now. We're going to wait." And they played it perfectly, and they got a really good deal for their client. But the Ezekiel Elliott contract gets worse and worse by the minute. You look at his numbers over the last couple of seasons, and they're going like this. And they made that commitment to him, and now they're not even that team anymore. I mean, their offensive line isn't the offensive line that it was when it was his rookie year. And Tyron Smith and Zach Martin are a little older now and banged up. So that contract to me is Jody, to your point, and John, the idea of that second contract, that one is a massive mistake in my opinion.
Fair enough. Trey Wingo here with Birds 365. All right, Johnny and I were kicking this around before you came on. I want to get your take on it, too. Jerry Jones admitted yesterday he may have screwed up when he and Jimmy got to loggerheads and moved on to Barry Switzer. I think we all figured that one out ahead of time. Just Jerry had never admitted it before. Why do you think he did so yesterday?
Well, two things. I think that, Jerry has zero bleeps left to give at, but I'll push an 80. And two, it is Cowboys Hard Knocks season, is it not? Aren't they
Yes,
Hard
it
Knocks
is.
this year?
Yeah.
So, wow, Jerry's being entertaining. I did not see that coming in any way, shape, or form. You know, I've always said about it'll be great content, but I think it'll be bad for the team because Jerry has always been about the sizzle as much as he's been about the steak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it is hard for the cynical part of me to not say, of course, he did that when he knew the Hard Knocks cameras were going to be there because it's going to be great content.
Yeah. And by the way, Stephen Jones, to your point, Trey, he admitted our biggest mistake was waiting too long on Dak Prescott to pay
Absolutely.
Dak Prescott.
Absolutely.
So it's like truth serum got into the Joneses talking about the Dallas Cowboys. But I do want to talk about the NFC East, obviously, close with the Eagles. I think people look at this as a sort of a have and have-nots division. You know, the haves aren't great, but I do think people look at Dallas and Washington as the two teams at the top, Giants and Eagles at the bottom. Is that the way you see it, or is there a little bit of a wiggle room there?
Well, here's what I've learned over the years in the NFC East. Nobody knows anything, right? If you go into last season, everyone would have said, yeah, Dallas and Philadelphia are the top two teams in that division, and the Giants and the Washington football team are Dreck. Well, who was competing down the last week of the season for the NFC East title? It was the Dreck, the Giants and the Washington football team. Now, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I love what the defensive side has done in Washington, and Jack Del Rio, their DC, has done an amazing job. I think the Cowboys should be the class of this division, but they're the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Like I can't give anything with any certainty on any team in the NFC East simply because of just it's so unpredictable and what we've seen over the last couple of years. I expect nothing, and nothing would surprise me in the NFC East. That's the only way I can look at it.
You just said something that made me think of something, and I wasn't planning on asking this question today, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you owned a football team and someone said to you, listen, we're going to take away your nickname. We're just going to refer to you as where you're playing your football games for 2 years, but then we're going to let you pick a new nickname. Would you even gone down this? How have we come to calling them the Washington football team for 2 years? We did it last year because they weren't ready to come up with a nickname. Now they're going to be the Washington football team, but damn, we're going to have a nickname next year. How the heck is this decided to shake itself out this way, Trey?
Because Daniel Snyder had to come kicking and screaming and drag to this conclusion. It tells you everything that he never wanted to do this. He was forced to do it, which, by the way, I have no problem with. He was forced to do it, and he didn't have a plan, and they still don't have a plan. So they're going to try and figure out what the best plan is over a 2-year period. And quite frankly, there's a part of me that just kind of likes the football team now. Like, I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world when I heard it the first time. You're just going to call them the football team? But now it's like, we're the football team. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of like it now after a year of this.
All right, Trey, though, you were being cynical about the Cowboys and Hard Knocks. I'm going to be cynical here. I think they're double dipping twice purposefully for the merchandise. You got the Washington football team sell, and then you're going to sell all the new stuff with the new team name. I think
that's a great point. John, that's a great point. It's like, how many throwback jerseys can you sell? Like, hey, let's start. Well, we're gonna have this helmet this year. We're gonna do this. It's all marketing. It's all merchandise. So yeah, there's absolutely a part of it. They're like, look, let's sell all this merch for one more year, and then we got a whole nother batch. Absolutely.
But let me follow up there. We kid because we care and we can. You kind of lean toward. We had Howard on early. He's leaning toward them. The Washington football team did win the division last year. Yeah. And the only reason why anybody wouldn't pick them going into this season would be Dak Prescott to the Cowboys.
Yep.
Yet their organization is a mess. Yeah. Their owner is in big time trouble, being sued, so much so that he put his wife into the CEO position so he could take a step back. Yet they're going to try and win the division for back-to-back years, which hasn't been done since Andy Reid did it here.
Andy Reid's Eagles in 3 years in a row.
A decade ago. Will the separation of church and state, football, and the rest of the organization, be good enough that this team can actually not have all the front office drama affect the on-field action?
Well, I think that they've done a really good job in cleaning up the front office. And I think, obviously, Ron Rivera and his staff have done a great job. The new GM and president have done a great job. To me, the organization, the only part of the organization that stinks is the guy that owns it at this point. Like that's the problem. I think they've done a really good job trying to disassociate themselves from the guy who signs the checks. And I think that I think that look, I mean, last year Ron Rivera had to battle cancer and all this turmoil and COVID, and they still won the division. So if they can find a way to work through all of that, I'm convinced that the structure they have in place on the football side, not on the financial side, not on the business side, but on the football side is good enough to deal with whatever is going on above them. I do believe that.
I want to talk about the NFL and the Washington football team, Trey, because how do you do an investigation of these serious charges and there's no written report? How does this league get away with stuff like that?
Well, my alma mater, Baylor University, tried that with the Art Briles thing. And it was an oral report. There was no paperwork. No me a lawyer that doesn't show their work. Okay, like find me a lawyer that I'm billing you a gazillion dollars an hour, but I have no paper to show the proof that I did the work. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. It is unbelievable. And I want to shift gears toward the complicated fella in Green Bay, because the rubber's going to hit the road here with Aaron Rodgers. $40,000 a day, which is probably meaningless for Aaron at this point. But nonetheless, it's money you can't get back. He doesn't seem to have a lot of options. If he wants to play, he's going to have to play in Green Bay, it seems. Will he walk away? Will he give that, whatever it is, $25 million back and say, you know what? I'm so headstrong, I'm done with this team. Or is he going to play it out?
I think that Aaron Rodgers' position is dug in, and I don't think I've seen anything that's changed his position. I mean, this is a guy who divorced his family over a perceived slight. Like, he doesn't talk to his family anymore. He doesn't. If you watch that match when he played with Bryson DeChambeau against Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady, and there was a lot of trash talk between them before the match, and then Phil Mickelson tried to knuckle bump him after a good punt, and Aaron was like, "Get out of here, man! You're done. You dissed me." This is who he is, and I think that the Packers are the team, are the side in this that needs to understand that he's not changing. I believe this is very similar to when Carson Palmer told the Bengals, "Guys, I'm not playing for you anymore," and he was willing to walk away from $50 million in that situation. And it took halfway through the season, but the Bengals eventually traded him to the Raiders. And then, of course, he went on to play really well for the Cardinals. I believe that Aaron Rodgers' mind has not changed from when this first story came out, and nothing that they've done. I mean, they put out that story yesterday that Adam Schefter had, that they had made him this offer that would have made him the highest paid player in football, and they would have tied him to the organization for 5 more years. Well, why does that story come out? Because it makes the Packers look good and it makes Aaron Rodgers look bad. That story was leaked for a reason. And it's never been about the money with Aaron Rodgers. It's never going to be about the money. I think his position is, you guys we don't jive anymore. And I'm done playing for you. I don't think he's going to play for the Packers. And I think eventually they're going to have to come to that realization, and they're going to have to move him.
All right, so let's say Mark Murphy is watching Birds 365 right now, and he hears what Trey Wingo has to say, and he goes, "Damn, he's probably right." Yeah. When is the best time for the Green Bay Packers to trade Aaron Rodgers? Is it tomorrow? Is it during the preseason? Do you wait till in season? Do you let him sit out an entire year and get Jordan and just continue to have to deal with the slings and arrows of the media that Aaron Rodgers is sitting at home? If you are the Green Bay Packers, when is the best time to say, "All right, you win, Aaron, we'll trade you"?
April, but they didn't do that.
No, that's a future tense we're looking at.
Yeah, listen, they're going to have to come to everything they've said, has been like, "Oh, he's a complicated fella," and, nothing has changed. I mean, they have tried everything, right? They've tried to meet with him. They've tried to fly out and have the coach and the GM go talk. He has rebuffed them on every front, every single time. He has not showed up. He's not going to show up. I think that they're not there yet, is what I'm saying. In this relationship, one person is there. He's there. The other side, the other part of this relationship is not there yet. I think that they're going to try and wait as long as they can before they come to the realization that he's already made up his mind. So to me, obviously, I would trade him before the season, but I don't think they're going to. I think they are so convinced that at this point that he'll come back, that they're going to wait as long as possible. I would imagine it happens around the trade deadline. That would be my my interpretation of events.
All right, Trey, last one from me. The uncertainty of the other big name quarterback, Deshaun Watson in Houston. Here in Philadelphia, it just never ends. They're constantly talking about the Eagles with Deshaun Watson. Ultimately, we talked about the investigation in Washington. The NFL's doing this parallel investigation. They haven't interviewed Deshaun Watson, to my knowledge, which is an interesting interview. But I think Roger Goodell is going to pop his head out before Tuesday and say commissioner's exempt list. But ultimately, where do you see Deshaun Watson going? Is it on the shelf for the entire season? Can anything happen? And can Houston trade him without these allegations being cleared up? Is that even possible?
I mean, Houston can, but I don't know what team that would, right? I mean, that's the issue. Like, I know that the Dolphins were very interested in Deshaun, and I'm sure the Eagles were at some point as well. But then this thing became ugly. And if you're a general manager anywhere, you cannot pull that trigger until you know what you're facing. So I think that, to your point, when we get clarity from Roger Goodell, I think we'll get a little more clarity on the potential suitors for Deshaun Watson, because you can't. It's going to take draft capital. It's going to take a lot of players and picks to make a trade, because Houston really doesn't want to trade him, even with all these allegations. But you can't, as a guy willing to go down that road, you can't make that decision until you know what you're getting. Are you going to miss him for 4 games? Are you going to miss him for 6? Are you going to miss him for 8? You don't know. So to me, I cannot, in good conscience, make a trade for Deshaun Watson until I know exactly what the penalties are going to be.
All right, Trey, last thing, and they're both YouTube questions here on YouTube with us on Birds 365. We appreciate that. Trey Wingo presents, number 1, who's the next guest we're looking forward to? And number 2, in the ones that you've done, you had a sense of what it was going to be like when you started the interview and what you hoped to achieve. When it was over and done with, that you said to yourself, damn, didn't see that happening. Didn't know he's going to say that. Really? Is that what we got out of this? That's good. Who was the one that surprised you most who you've interviewed so far?
Well, thank you. First of all, season 4 is going to start in August. We've already taped a few Hall of Famers and a couple of current head coaches, so we're excited about that. Again, you can get it, Half Forgotten History, Trey Wingo Presents, on my YouTube channel. Honestly, T.O. was a lot of fun. I mean, when we got T.O., I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting, because, he and I have butted heads a lot when I was at ESPN. But he was actually great. And the conversations about the whole driveway thing in Philadelphia were incredible. The driveway workout. And then we really got into it about the Hall of Fame. Like, I respect his opinion, but I felt like he penalized the wrong people. Like the Hall of Fame people in Canton, it's their year. It's a grown person's prom, the Hall of Fame ceremony. Yeah. And the city lives for it. And I understand that he was mad about the writers, but I felt like by punishing the writers, or thinking he was punishing the writers and the voters, he actually punished the people in Canton, Ohio. And I thought that they did not deserve his wrath. And so we sort of went back and forth with it on that, but we ended up just settling it nice over a bottle of his 81 wine. But it was a really fun. I really enjoyed that, and he surprised me a lot.
We'll have fun watching you with your guys this year. Thank you very much for giving us the heads up. Thanks for coming on. We're going to be punching you up as the season gets underway. Always good to see you, Trey. Keep hitting them long and strong.
All right, John, Jody, thanks very much. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Trey Wingo here with us on Birds 365. I did not know that. I didn't even know I was going to ask that question. It's popping into my head. No. Little did I know he was going to go T.O. as the most fun and yet revealing and surprising interview that he did. So if you're any kind of an Eagles fan, you got to go to Trey's YouTube website and check out the interview.
I always like to talk about push-ups in Morristown. It's always exciting.
That not far from where I was living at the time. Yes, thank you very much, T.O. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're coming back to put a bow on the show. Here
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
All right, clock ticking on a Thursday edition of Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys. First things first, I want to thank both of our guests. Yesterday, early, John reached out to me to tell me that I got Howard Eskin. I'm sure you've seen the story by now. Howard saying that Zach Ertz has been working out with the Eagles, and there's a good chance he's going to be on the team this year. So John was able to book him. And then shortly thereafter, I got Trey Wingo to agree to come on with us. I asked for him for yesterday. He was playing golf. But he said, oh, come on with you the next day. So Trey came on with us, and I thought both spots were real good today. So thank those two gentlemen for hopping on board with us. John, I got to give you props because last Friday when we did the show, I asked you about three things. And what was the percentage chance that when we returned on Monday, they would have changed Zach Ertz's situation, the cornerback 2 situation, the unsigned Landon Dickerson situation? You said 0, 0, 0, Jody. Nothing is happening this weekend. Well, I asked you the same thing yesterday, and you said, well, they're all off 0. You didn't set any of them too high, but you said they have certainly advanced to the point where I'm not going to give them any zeros. The one you gave the highest percentage of something happening was Zach Ertz. And damn if it didn't happen yesterday. I think you put him up about 25%. Yeah, the others still in single digits, but you moved the Zach resolution up several notches, and that's exactly what happened. We found out yesterday that at least as of right now, and remember, this thing is very fluid. Even Howard, who broke the story, said he hasn't said he will definitely play. No, he could be traded tomorrow, but at least we know that he is reporting to the Eagles facility to work out and is planning on being there with the masses, his 89 teammates, on Wednesday of next week when everybody reports, which leaves us with two, CB2 and Landon Dickerson signing. You even gone so far as to say it'll be either day before or day of that the Eagles have to report that they will make the signing official. So are you still at 0, or might they be ahead of the game? Could we, before we reconvene here on Birds 365 tomorrow, a Football Friday edition, will Landon Dickerson be signed? What is the percentage? The answer is yes.
Every day goes up a little bit as we get closer to Tuesday. I do think ultimately he will be signed either day before. Look, I think he's going to be on the field Wednesday at 10 a.m. So that's the deadline. They might announce it Wednesday morning, knowing the Eagles. But that's how I think Landon Dickerson is going to play out. You know, it's interesting, quarterback, too. That can go way into August. Howie is brought up, and we've talked about a lot with Ronald Darby. Steven Nelson, however, he remains out there. And he made that cryptic tweet today or tomorrow. I believe that was that 2 days ago, or was
2
that
days
yesterday?
ago? Today should be the day.
Yeah, so today should be the day. So I think most people think he's going back to the Steelers from what I've gathered and people I've talked to. But I look at the opportunity the Eagles can offer him, and he can't get it anywhere else. He just can't get it. If he signs here, he steps in, he's a starting player. He's going to have to compete everywhere else. He's got plenty of options, but he's going to have to compete. Here, he's the guy with Darius Slay. So until he goes back to Pittsburgh, there's a chance. So it keeps creeping up. And today is at least something to keep an eye on because of his own cryptic tweet. Maybe he makes a decision today. So let's put cornerback 2. Let's bump it up to 25% today.
And that is one of the reasons why, despite Howard's report, and I have no reason to question Howard's report, I think he's got the thing locked down. But it doesn't 100% add up, because if you believe what John said earlier, Dallas Goedert is the unquestioned starter and Zach Ertz is the backup, and that Nick Sirianni doesn't really want to play too much tight end, they're going to be paying their backup $8 million.
Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. And that's why I said the most important part of Howard's report, I said, was the second part, and that's that Zach is in the building working out, because that's an indication he'll be here on Tuesday. And that makes sense because he doesn't want to lose $40,000 a day. This by no means precludes Howie Roseman from trading him. And I always bring up Sam Bradford. That's what he's shooting for. I've said this before. He's shooting for somebody else to have an injury. Maybe they're a contender. They say, oh, we need a tight end. Let's go get Zach Ertz. The Eagles aren't going to just cut him. That's what Howie's shooting for. So I don't think this is any definitive statement that Zach Ertz is going to play for this team. They're just going as far as they can with this game of chicken. They're going to take it as far as they can. And if they lose, losing for the Eagles would be slamming into that $8.5 million or whatever it is that they have to pay. But remember what Howard also said. They've already budgeted that money.
Right.
He's here. They budgeted. So that's the worst case scenario that they play it out.
But if they do find a taker for Zach, whatever the return is, it will open up some money. It does allow them to do certain things, like maybe trade for a cornerback too. We've thrown stupid Steven Nelson's name out there for too many days in a row on this show. There is always the possibility of a trade, but you got to have cap space.
I hope Steven makes a decision. Can I say that? Can I plead?
Yeah. What's the percentage, Steven Nelson? Forget about the Eagles. Now, it may affect the Eagles. Those two things may go hand in hand. But what's the percentage Steven Nelson has news for us over the next 22 hours?
50%.
Yes. I'm going 51, just to top Johnny Mac. All right, you want to be right back here 22 hours from now, a Football Friday edition, McMullen and McDonald on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.